Hey YouTube, it's your girl, Dr. J, the Midlife Writer, and today in my observation, these videos I'm going to be doing where I just talk about things that I'm observing here in South Korea and contrast that with different things that I observed when I was back in the States. And so today's topic is on kids' spaces or spaces that are designed just for children. I was really surprised. Sorry for the sun coming in. The sun is out and it's beautiful, and I love looking at the sun. So the way that my office is set up, I actually can see the sun. You can kind of see what I'm seeing out my window in my computer screen back there. But yeah, this is me enjoying the sun. Sorry for the glare. But anyway, so one of the things that I have been really impressed with has been the number of places that I go that have spaces that are designed just for kids. For instance, we took a tour of Jeju Island. So we spent about 3 days in Jeju Island, and in the hotel that we were staying in, they had a place that was just for kids. I would say it would be for kids from young children all the way up to maybe like 5, 6, maybe 7 years old. And you did have to pay for your child to go in, but the prices ranged, I think it was about 10,000 to 15,000 won, which in US dollars would be anywhere between 750 to maybe 1250 depending on the exchange rate. And so that was about the price of a meal in more of like a quick service restaurant. So it was not a price that would be unreasonable for the type of hotel that we were in. And it was a nice space. It seemed really fun. The kids were in there that I saw in there seemed to be enjoying themselves. And I was like, okay, all the traveling that I did when my kids were younger in the US, and we definitely didn't run into a lot of places that had spaces just for kids. But it's not just like hotels. You can go to the regular mall, and in the regular mall, they have spaces set aside. Some spaces that are free for kids where they can just go in and play and run around and get rid of energy. And then they have other spaces that you can pay, but the prices seem to be pretty reasonable. I consider something a reasonable price is if it is equivalent to what you might pay for one meal for one person at a kind of run-of-the-mill type restaurant place. So not a high-end restaurant, but something where you want to grab a quick meal. So a lot of places I see that's the price. It's equivalent to, admission is equivalent to a meal at a quick stop restaurant. And so that has been really amazing to see. Another thing that I've been impressed with seeing is things like kid cafes. So cafes that are themed and have menus and are designed for kids. And I thought that is ingenious because I know in the United States, people would get frustrated if children would be kind of anywhere, but definitely in like restaurants and things like that. And if they were kids, right? Acting like kids, being wild, having a lot of energy, being a bit rambunctious, people would be upset by that. And so to see a kid cafe where a kid can, number one, be a kid, and then they can begin to learn the skills and the expectations for eating in a restaurant so that when they actually go out and sit in restaurants and family restaurants or restaurants with their parents, or as they get older, they kind of have calmed down a bit, but they've also gotten a chance to learn the experience. That has been really great to see because I know in the United States, my experience and what I saw, like, y'all, folks were writing, grown men were writing think pieces about their displeasure with the casting in The Little Mermaid. Folks will be mad because people wouldn't stay dead in movies about comic books. The comic book characters that people fell in love with when they were kids, they're now upset because the movies based on those comic books aren't for kids. And so they get mad that there's not an R rating on a movie that's about a toy. Like, oh yeah, there's these toys, they transform, and we're gonna make a movie about it, and then you're mad because it's not R rated, because it's not for adults. And so if kids can't have Little Mermaid and they can't have comic book stuff, and so you go, well, what can kids have in the U.S.? And it's not to say that there aren't restaurants for kids in the United States. The ones that come to mind are things like Chuck E. Cheese, but that's not a place that you go to have a meal. Chuck E. Cheese, if you go to Chuck E. Cheese and you're not about to stay and play, that's just kind of cruelty for your kids at that point. Because when they go to Chuck E. Cheese, they think they're about to play. They don't think they're going to go and sit down and have an actual meal. And then the other cafes that I can think of for kids might be the American Girl Cafe. But again, when you go into an American Girl store, that child is probably thinking they're about to get an American Girl doll, or at least a doll or accessory or something like that. And the cafe, the prices are aligned with the prices of the dolls, which is very much on the high end. And so being able to go into spaces and see that in South Korea, they have all of these different venues that are designed for kids and seem to be reasonably priced. Looking at it from my American eyes and with a very positive exchange rate, they seem to be reasonably priced. That's been really nice to see. Even with parks and public spaces, you'll see a lot of playgrounds at public parks where that kind of contrasts that with my lived experience in the United States. When my kids were little, it was, sometimes kind of hard to find a public park that had play sets. And if they did, they might not be well maintained. And so this has been really, really interesting to see, especially because my perception before I got to South Korea was that it was, very strict. I'm saying that it's not very strict, or that, kids weren't allowed to be kids. That was a big perception that I had, because that's all people would talk about. It's like, oh, you can't be a kid, in those countries. And so when I got to South Korea, I was really, excited to get to see all these different things that they do to celebrate children and allow children to be children, understanding that that doesn't take away from the experience of adults, because there are spaces for adults, but there are also spaces and places for kids. And so that was really cool. But, South Korea, they also have a National Children's Day, where children are celebrated for being kids. So that's just a observation that I wanted to share. Something that was really cool. And yeah, as you see from my shirt, I'm the youngest in the family. So I'm the youngest sibling in my family. So yeah, getting to see kids be able to be kids is a really big deal. And it's something that I wish there was more of that available when my kids were younger. I would have loved to have more spaces and places, especially places that don't drain the wallet, and just allow kids an opportunity to relax a little bit and be kids, and not have adults demanding that, no, I know this is a kids cafe, but why can't I get a beer? Like that's not something that I saw. So just a really interesting observation, and I wanted to share that with you. So thanks a lot. This is Dr. J, the Midlife Writer. Bye-bye.